And now to France, where clashes erupt between demonstrators and riot police as tens of thousands of people take to the streets of the European nation to protest the unpopular pension reforms. Riot police fired tear gas to disperse ralliers who threw projectiles at them. The rallies were held in Paris, Marseille, Nantes, and elsewhere, turning violent in some cities. Now, this is the 14th such protests against the government's plans since January. The nationwide rallies are held just 2 days before an opposition-sponsored bill aimed at canceling the minimum pension age increase is reviewed by Parliament. President Emmanuel Macron forced the reform through with special constitutional powers, which prompted angry protests this spring. And the government ignored the protests, insisting on long-term goals of the reform. Well, the plan, which is already in statute books, have raised the retirement age for most workers from 62 to 64. We're going to cross over to Paris, joined by our correspondent, Ramin Mazaheri. Ramin, good to see you. Well, fill us in on the latest and what's going on, please.
Well, I guess one thing that is sort of unusual about today's demonstration is that it has been relatively calm. There really hasn't been a tremendous amount of violence, but we are at the end of the demonstration now, and it's called Place d'Italie, and this has been the scene of many violent demonstrations. Excuse us, thank you, pardon us. But so far it is pretty calm. There are police surrounding us. There has been a bit of tear gas, but it's my impression that the government does not want to massively repress this protest, as it did, for example, on May 1st, when my cameraman right over here, a guy named Yassine, he was shot in the leg after being, we were obviously targeted by police. We were seconds away from going live on camera, and you normally shoot tear gas up in the air, and they were aiming at us, and Yassine caught it in the leg, but he is okay. Thanks God. But I think it's my impression that it's been so quiet today in terms of police brutality, because it's really seeming like this is the last of 15 demonstrations this year of 1 million people or more. So the government wants it to end quietly. And even the top union leader today said that, quote, even if we don't want it, this is the end of the match. Because what happens in France is that when it's, no matter how much momentum they have in these interminable anti-austerity protests. I say interminable because they happen every spring and usually every fall. And if they're not either ignored by Paris, they are ignored by Brussels, or they are counteracted. Rather, I should say they strike down what democratically elected governments, when they do decide to go anti-austerity, Brussels rejects it. So I'm starting to get here. So this is going to be the end here. No. Here we go. No. Okay. So anyways, we're all right, but we are seeing now that there is some it's sort of inevitable that there's going to be some violence. We have just give us 1 second here. We're getting moved here, and so I'm watching right now. Cops just using truncheons on protesters. It's so routine in France, and for some reason, if were this to happen in China, were this to happen in some non-Western country, the Western mainstream media would be up in arms. And here comes the tear gas. Watch out! Look out here! Here we go. Were this to happen in here we go right here. You're seeing it. Were this to happen in some non-Western country, the Western mainstream media would be just up in arms. But this happens on such a regular basis, and the Western mainstream media here, you can see someone being dragged away. This happens at all the time in France. It's really just There's just so much violence, so much police brutality, so many arrests, so many innocent people hurt, and yet the West talks.
Okay, seems like we have lost that connection. Out of Paris by Ramin Mazaheri, and you could see that the police were starting to fire off tear gas canisters. I don't know, Ramin, are you still with me?
Yes, I am. Yeah.
Are you okay, Ramin? We want you to be safe, so you do what you have to do. Be careful. Go ahead.
No. We're totally fine. We're totally fine. Are we staying on the air? Are you there?
Yeah. Okay. So, Ramin, I was talking to a guest earlier, and he was talking about the whole situation. He said it's interesting that people continue to protest something that is not going to be changed, but actually, as a matter of fact, the pressure that the French people are under, not being able to save any money, and of course, the expenses, housing and food, that they really should be protesting that deterioration of the quality of life in general instead of this specific. I mean, your take on that overall when you talk to people, is it that they're just protesting this, going from 62 to 64, or it's the whole package and what is happening there?
Well, I think that you really shouldn't look at these protests in a vacuum. You have to go back to, back when the first austerity measure in France was in 2010, when they raised the retirement age by 2 years. And every spring since then, and usually every fall as well, there are more anti-austerity protests that get massively repressed. But it's really, to me, rather quite simple to sum up for this anti-austerity. Gut the social democratic gains that were made as a result of the bloodletting of World War I and World War II, they are trying to roll those back. They want to go back to a situation where, the socialist revolution of 1917, the socialist revolutions, in China, in Cuba, Iran's Islamic-based but still socialist-inspired revolutions, they want nothing to do with any of these ideas, any of these worker protections. And what social democracy is that it is a very slight accommodation that liberal democracy, 19th century aristocratic, monarchy-loving, liberal democracy that they had to give up after World War II. They had to implement some of these socialist-inspired measures. But what austerity is, what the European Union is what it has proved to be in any sort of objective analysis is the roll back these moderate social democratic gains. So you are talking about, is this protest just against the raising of the retirement age? No, it's not. And is it just one protest? No, it's not. It's one protest that's been going on here in France for 13 years, and it's emphatic that we make this point that in 2009 with the Lisbon Treaty, that's when the EU really went online. And ever since then, they have been trying to, via quote-unquote measures, they have been trying that the average person won as a result of the bloodletting of World War I and World War II. So we are seeing the destruction of the European social democratic model that many people in the West, in places like the United Kingdom and in the United States, they said for decades, why can't we even have what they have? Cheap universities, education, cheap healthcare, vacation minimum, these sort of basic.
All right, that's Ramin Mazaheri out of Paris. You're looking at those live images there. Out of Paris, as protesters there are still on the ground. Of course, they're out on the streets protesting against the retirement age increase reform from 62 to 64. And as you heard Ramin say earlier, I mean, they've been out there at least 14 times already this year. And of course, despite that, basically, the law is on the books. It's the statute that will be implemented. Again, though you're looking at those live images, well, the French are still not happy about their government not responding, not listening, and as a matter of fact, doing the opposite of what the majority of the people wanted them to do. Again, those are live images coming out of Paris, and of course, we'll be going back to Paris as deemed necessary. We'll let you know. Just make sure you don't change that dial and stay with us right here at Press TV. We'll bring you the latest on that story.